What's that you're doing there?
I am trying to figure out this new cell phone.
What is it that you're trying to figure out?
I don't want it to be able to tell where I am.
Well, you can't turn it off. Not really.
What do you mean? Why not?
There is a feature you cannot turn off that is called Enhanced 911.
What does it do?
It allows cell phone companies to locate mobile devices.
I have seen that done in movies, but I thought it was mostly science fiction.
No, not at all. In some cases, cell phone companies can locate mobile devices to within a 50-meter radius.
But why don't the cell phone companies allow you to turn off Enhanced 911?
It is mandated by the federal government that the user not be able to turn off this feature.
What is the reason for that?
The Federal Bureau of Investigations and local police forces sometimes use this information to track down suspects.
Are you saying that it is possible to tell where anyone in the world is by using the information gathered by this feature?
Indeed. They can determine the location of a cell phone whenever a call was initiated or received based on the device's location relative to the cell towers that were accessed.
Police forces probably have to have a warrant in order to access that kind of information.
There have been cases where police have accessed this information without first showing probable cause.
But doesn't that violate the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution?
It has been argued that there is not considered to be a reasonable expectation of privacy regarding the location of your cell phone. Cell phone companies store this sort of information for up to a year for a number of business-related reasons.
But that doesn't change the fact that the cell phone company is basically keeping track of everywhere you go.
It is only keeping track of your cell phone, and only if a call is initiated or received.
Let's say that I object to some cell phone company knowing where I am whenever I talk on my phone. I think that any phone call that a person makes is a private conversation, and one should be able to expect that no one is keeping track of where he is when the call is made.
One might argue that if you're not doing anything wrong, then it should not matter where you are when the call was made.
It doesn't matter if I'm doing anything wrong or not. The point is that a person should be able to expect that his private life will remain private if he so wishes. There is a precedent that police should not be able to invade a person's privacy unless they have shown probable cause to do so. Having access to this sort of personal information violates that expectation of privacy.
It is not as if someone can tell where you are all of the time. It is not even the person that the data is collected on. The data collected shows only where a mobile device probably was when a call was made. There is no precedent for an inanimate object to have a reasonable expectation of privacy.
That hardly makes a difference. It's not as if my cell phone will ever be anywhere but where I place it. If I initiate or receive a phone call with my cell phone, then it is necessary for the device to be wherever I am. That means that taking note of a cell phone's location at any given time is essentially the same as taking note of the owner's location at that time.
There are other applications for this sort of technology as well. Let's say for the sake of argument that a person has been missing for several days. Assuming that the person had a cell phone on his or her person at the time of disappearance, the police could use the location information from the Enhanced 911 to find that person's approximate last known location. This would at least give police a place to start their search. If the device was still in the possession of the missing person, the data may even be able to give police the person's current whereabouts.
So what you're saying is that everyone should give up their privacy on the somewhat minimal chance that one might be abducted or go missing. You could also lock your family and friends in their houses in order to keep them from going outside and ensure that they do not get abducted or go missing. You would not do this, however, because it would be akin to imprisoning them and thus violating their rights.
That is not quite the same situation. No one is forcing you to carry, or even own a cell phone. In your example, you would be forcing people to stay indoors presumably against their will. You may choose not to use a cell phone if the location technology bothers you. If you do choose to use a cell phone, then it is necessary to use a cell phone provider's cell towers. It is necessary for those providers to log certain information for use in quality control as well as keeping track of usage charges. There is really no way to keep that information from the cell provider. So long as providers are logging this sort of information, police forces will likely wish to gain access to it for various reasons.
Okay, let's assume that much is true. Does this mean that you think police forces should be able to have access to this sort of information whenever they choose?
No. It does seem that there should be some sort of restriction on when and how police are allowed to access that kind of information. I think the same probably goes for internet use as well.
What does the internet have to do with what we have been discussing?
Similarly to cell phone companies logging the location of a mobile device whenever a call is made, your internet service provider, or ISP, is able to tell what websites you visit and when.
I think I might be turning into a Luddite.
Slow down. You don't need to destroy your computer.
Please just tell me that there isn't someone at my internet service provider watching everything I do online.
No, of course they're not.
Then what do they do?
Your IP address is unique to your computer. Your ISP is able to tell the IP address of the sender and recipient of any data that is sent over the internet through your connection. This means that whenever your computer accesses a website or downloads something, your ISP makes a note of it.
What is the purpose of collecting that sort of information?
Often the information collected is about your general location and what kinds of things you often search for. This is used to narrow down what kinds of advertisements they will send you.
Other than sending me more annoying advertisements, I suppose this is not that bad. So only the ISP is able to access this information?
I didn't say that. Some websites, like Facebook and Google, also collect this sort of information. It is also the policy of many internet service providers to make this sort of information available to the authorities if and when they ask for it. Before you ask, there is no necessity for a warrant in this situation.
Why would the police want to know what a person does on the internet?
There are many people who try to find ways to exploit technology. This includes copyright infringement of films and music, as well as maliciously attacking web-based services or even individual users. At this point, using this sort of information is one of the only ways of discovering who is responsible for these criminal acts.
So once again, even though I am obeying the law, I have to submit to having my activities tracked by companies that willingly supply that information to the police.
I'm afraid so, at least if you want to use the internet.
Privacy really is dead.